freestyle too really well, and you go on open mics, and then you learn how to hold the mic, right? Right.
I'm still learning that a bit. I built a social network. Like I say it's similar to MySpace because like I don't know what to relate it to other than like it did look like MySpace. Like this piece of paper, I had my database designed on it. Get excited, decide what technology you want to build on. Figure out what you can do. Don't worry about learning it. Don't worry about memorizing or even learning too much about what the functions do. Just look what all the functions are, look what arguments they take, and if it's something interesting, read about it so you know what you could do, and then go back and actually decide what you're going to do.
I forgot that I'm on Earth.
Be careful, I'm a hypnotist. Listen to my rap.
Hello. Welcome to Community Stories. This is now the second episode, actually. Thank you so much for accepting the invite to be part of it. And I shall present you as Gudasol.
Thank you, Rosemary. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm honored to be your second guest. And I'm excited to talk about Fractally and Aquadac.
Of course. And just a bit about you and how we met. We met in Mexico a few months ago. I was gonna say years. It feels like years.
It feels like years, man.
Right?
I lived in the jungle. I lived in a different jungle.
Yeah.
And now I'm living in the forest. I lived in the city. Man, it feels like a long time. I went back to the United States. Yeah, it's been wild.
So many things happened, really. Season changed. Lots of things, many things.
So I will take credit. I'm the one that brought Rosemary into this whole Eden fractally megasphere, if you will. And yeah, it's fulfilling in many ways to be here, being interviewed by you about these type of things. Aww. And to share my passion, as I have probably since the first time I explained my involvement, because I am very passionate about these ideas, and I'm glad to see your passion as well.
Thanks so much. It's going full circle, right?
Yes.
Feels nice. And thank you so much for introducing me to Eden Fractal and the whole Eden community use and so many more things. I've learned so much from you. You're a great developer, great friend, great person, and you're so creative, and you make music too, which is awesome. You rap spiritually, which is a really amazing thing because not many people do. And you can freestyle too really well, and you go on open mics, and then you learn how to hold the mic, right? Right?
I'm still learning that, apparently.
But then you have so many skills, and not only that, you're a founder of CXC, which is this music streaming platform that even has Bulgaria songs in there, and that song that you showed during the Infracto meeting as well, that's a sick song. That's one of the grandma song. It just goes in. And not only
Piranha
that,
Earrings on CXC is what we're talking about. It's a crazy song. If you find that, then you win a prize.
I can just input the link into the description so that people don't miss out and they know what's up, basically.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, Rosemary. And you are an incredible rapper as well. If anyone watching doesn't know, the Rose song you have, but it's called like Posa, or how do you say it?
Rosa.
Oh, you say it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spelled weird. Yeah,
Yes.
amazing music, and I loved working with you for Aquarius Academy as well. And you did a great job with our social media, and I hope that you help this community as well to grow, because that's what we really need. We need to broadcast these messages, bring more people in, and that's part of what we're here to talk about. So
exactly.
Now that we've told everybody our backstory, let's jump in if you're ready.
Right. I am ready for sure. Let's jump in to the pool. So let's start with one of the most exciting projects that you have dreamed about for a long time, and you told me how special that is to you and how much of a passion that is. And it's a project that I hope you tell me more about, and our guests, whoever is listening and watching to this. And this is a project about Aquadac and the fruition of someone's devotion, someone's care, tasks, and moments throughout their journey to accomplish their goals, and also monitoring and taking that feedback from and providing feedback to others as well in the same community room, and just feeling like someone's not alone in that, and we all go through somewhat similar things. And this is a project that really inspired me too, and has helped me tremendously. So would you like to share more about the project, and to also uncover what part of your soul that takes?
Wow,
it's a deep question. Well, welcome to Community Stories.
Community stories.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to kind of explain my trajectory, because Aquadac is really sort of these bringing together of different things. And you're right, like when I started Aquadac, I had this idea that transformed, and the biggest reason it transformed was from listening to what group members' concerns were, as well as just observing like what people were actually getting out of it, right? So my trajectory, coming from like a tech background, I basically had this dream when I was 16 to build CXC. And I had this vision of a box, and this box has a tag, and the tag has information, and the information tells you what you can do with the box. And then I saw like all these sort of strings connecting them all over the world. And that vision is what inspired me to program, is what inspired me to build CXC, and start to develop these systems. So like from that vision, it's really very data based. So I really am into data. Like I love structured data. I got into normalizing databases, is what you call it, like when you take a database and make it basically better. And when I was 16, I got really into like designing data structures, normalizing databases, and I built like a full stack app. This is part of the trajectory of what got me to Eden originally. First of all, launching the app on Hive, then learning about Wax, and then of course, Eden is the biggest thing in the community. So I was member number 100 in Eden. And it really showed me not only a different way of like technology, because I would do things differently, but another way of bringing people together. And growing up on a farm, this is going to sound kind of weird, but like I developed like less social connections, or less community-based social connections, we'll say. My nearest friend was usually 5 to 10 minute drive away at least, except for my neighbors, which thank God we had awesome neighbors. Shout out the vocals. So yeah, like I saw the social benefit of Eden, but I wanted more, and I wanted the data. I think I'm actually getting into future questions and future stories, but I wanted to see the data better in Eden, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so I made a repo, like it was called the Meta Eden repo. This was like right before Facebook changed their name to Meta, like a week before. And it was like, oh God. So anyway, it was the Meta Eden repo, and the idea was to better define the social structures, right? Because as I was going through these Eden meetings, the turbulence that I saw was like, if there wasn't this sort of domineering personality saying, let's do this, this, and this person goes, this person goes, it could get awkward. But because we were sort of high knowledge, somebody would take over it, and we never really like had a problem in Eden. So anyway, Fractally is a growth off that, and now I'm going too far off the offshoot. So let's bring it back. On the other side, I'm working on Aquarius Academy, and I'm exploring really what it means and what it means to be consciousness, and learning the multiplicative or the exponential power of co-manifesting, of focusing together on a shared objective. And looking at Eden, my biggest concern, which if you're in the community, you've heard me scream it, is that the only mission is to create value for EOS, right? And that's not enough to bring us together. And then in Fractally, we had a little bit, I don't want to say better, but it was in theory better defined. It just in practice, it wasn't fulfilled. So shout out Dan, Dan Singjoy, that is, he created Eden Fractal, and that sort of kept us alive and kept us growing and growing, and kept my interest in it as well. You know, not saying I gave up on on anything, but I just kind of lost interest, right? It wasn't the most interesting thing to be involved in. So, you know, popping in every once in a while to Eden Fractal and being involved with that, I started to go through this phase in my life of wanting to merge all of my projects. And with Aquarius Academy, and the thing I was mentioning earlier about consciousness and this multiplicative property, I thought, okay, well, you know, it's time to put my money where my mouth is, my time where my mouth is, my reputation where my mouth is, my focus, you know, put all these things on doing something that scoops out the cream, like the best parts. And at first I thought that was different parts of the cream, but scoop out the best parts of human interaction, the best parts of collective intention, right? That's it, the best part of collective intention, and make it something that really benefits the individual members as well. You know, I've had various ideas with CXC and with Aquarius Academy, where it's sort of like we come together and we work for the Academy's goals or for CXC's goals, but that's not very fractal, right? So go ahead. Please stop my hour-long rant. Go ahead.
I think we're gonna actually pause for a minute, because not for a minute, but for a few minutes, because I just got an alert, emergency alert on my phone, which is so odd.
Oh,
it says
man.
tornado warning in this area until 8:30 p.m. This is,
oh man,
I never received it. So, yeah, and I see, like, I really don't know how like how
I do know how. It's like a low-level protocol with the cell phone towers. I don't know a lot about it, but I have a friend who worked on it, and it's crazy.
that, like,
But
yeah, it's like a text. Here we are again with my friend Gudasol, also known as Douglas, and also known as the so many different names, and the Aqua Man and Aqua Dad and all sorts of
am I
Aqua
Aquadad?
yeah, why not? And yeah,
There's
and Pixie
Pixie
too. Yes.
character.
And so thank you. This is part 2 in a way from
And thank you
the,
for having me.
of course, you're always welcome. And so just to remind where we were last time, we were at the question about where in your mind and like body, soul, in general, where in your being you found the need to start the project called Aquadac. I guess it's really interesting how you have that personality, 2 personas almost, like really tech developer that's really in the geeky style, you know, and then on the other side there's the spiritual and, you know, that divine energy that's guiding you as well, and that creativeness that you have. Yeah, and that creativeness translates into the rapping that you do as well. So it's a really interesting mix.
Thank you, Rosemary. And rapper to rapper. Yeah, I think like once you open up like the portal of creativity, it kind of grows. And where I'd like to pick off is I was talking somewhere around this time about this phase that I went through of wanting to merge like all of my projects. Wanting with the Aquadac new theme of connection, wanting to sort of connect these different parts and these different things. So yeah, I was really involved in Eden and I was really involved in Fractally. And looking back, I feel like sometimes I was overly critical and sometimes that became my voice, but all I want to take forward, all I want to speak about and move forward on is like what was really working, right? As well as like the parts that were working that might not have fully got up and got operating there. So along with that, I'm starting, I'm like, okay, I want to merge all my projects. So there's like obvious things that come up, right? So doing more music NFTs through CXC, doing some sort of a token thing or tokenized thing through Aqua or through Aquarius Academy. So along with that, like I had wanted to get people together for CXC and Dan came to some of our moon meets. But at the end, it was like I didn't have a solid proposition. I wasn't leading a team of people with clear objectives, and I didn't have the funding to do that either. So it kind of fizzled out, but I liked that and I wanted to do something bigger. At the same time, I met you in Tulum because we were in separate apartments in the same Airbnb building. So we were having weekly meetings with Corellia and talking and sort of like doing Aquarius Academy stuff. And I wanted to keep that going and transition that as well. So you were a part in the, at least the timing and the decision to the drive, if you will, the desire to have this format and have this, this Aquarius Academy-ish meeting. And I also decided like, I decided in the CXC Moon meets, like I wasn't quite ready to be like, okay, we're an organization, this is our objective, here's a set of things to do, even if it was like a democratic process of that. So I thought like, I mentioned earlier, cream of the crop, like scooping off the top of that cream and thinking like, what is the best part of Fractalies? The people coming together, all these, Vlad, Tadas, building awesome technology that works and people using it. That's what I like to see. One thing I missed from Eden was a direction in what we're testing and community sort of testing and feedback. And I think things are getting better with the circles, although I have not been an active community member. I've been more active, I would say, in like Eden and as well as Eden Fractal, but I wouldn't say I'm all the way up to speed on what they're doing. So I'm getting off on too many tangents, but so that was my desire. Like I wanted to take the best parts, which was bringing people together. I wanted to not be like, okay, this is organizational objectives. So that experiment became what can we do with that? And somehow I can't recall the exact spawn of the idea for the format, but it was like this idea of shared desire, right? Collective desire, foundational belief that is exponentially grows. So we have this shared desire exponentially grows. So if we have individuals and we make it, a shared thing, but it's individual as well, and we have the social aspect of the weekly meetings, sort of the routine. And it seems to have worked. We're here now and we're having this conversation and I look forward to inviting more people and it's gonna get crazy. I'm gonna ask Dan, I'm gonna humbly probably ask Dan or you if you want to do like meetings once we get big because or like help because it's gonna be it could be a lot of people potentially, and I hope it does catch on and I hope that other people sort of do their own groups and use the Fractally system, use the technology that we have, and then sort of pick up whatever social systems we continually develop at Aquadac as well.
That is great. And of course, always feel free to share whatever it's on your mind. I like to keep the conversation natural and flowing, and most importantly, to speak as friends, really, and have a wonderful conversation that we can share with others, which may find helpful too. So thank you so much for sharing your story so far and the details about the shared desire and what Aquadac is really all about. You mentioned the individuals and social aspects of it, and growing, learning, and helping each other as we go into these weekly meetings. So would you be able to give a brief overview of what Aquadac is for people that are not familiar with this project?
Sure. We are a social club at a at a legal and basic level. We meet once a week and we interact in a social way that we believe is beneficial. Similar to a book club, we have a subject matter that we discuss, except for our subject matter in this case is a set of goals really that we set for ourselves at the beginning of the 12-week program or whenever you happen to join. So the format is of this club is you show up, you come with your list of this template that you fill out. It's about 5 or 6 questions. And then we can quickly know, we being all the members of the group, what you hope to get out of this season. And what you hope to get out has to be part of this general theme that we're all collectively desiring within ourselves, right? So yeah, that's the format. Basically, we show up for the first 15 minutes. We have kind of like small talk. Then around 11:15, it's Eastern Standard Time or GMT 14:15, I think. Then we go into breakout rooms, except for we usually just have 5 or 6 people, so we just do one room. But if we have more than like 7 people, then we can do breakout rooms. And in that, we use the Fractally system, and maybe our audience is familiar with that. But if not, it's something developed by Dan Larimer based on his paper. And Fractally was a group. I don't believe they're still meeting, but their goal was to build this sort of this, I don't know how to call it. It's like a DAO or a DAC, but it's like a fractal system, a fractal worker proposal contribution system that's sort of more natural than a lot of other organizational systems, I think. Yeah, we use that system. How that actually works is we rank each other. We listen 3 to 5 minutes from each person. So you'll have 3 to 5 minutes to say what you did in the previous week, and just the previous week. We're not super strict about that, but it is important. And then the other people in the group rank you based on how well they think you did according to your goals, right? So what you set out to do is the metric from which others judge you, and that judging turns out to be this sort of trick. Is it Hawthorne effect? Oh man, it's definitely not Hawthorne effect, but there's this one, there's this principle in business that if you watch the employees, they are more productive, right? But at the underlying level of that is just the social thing of somebody's watching me. Now, I'd like to think that this is a very different social structure, but the thing still applies in more of a familiar way, like a peer pressure way, right? We almost, I'm using terrible terms to describe this, but yeah, we kind of peer pressure each other to go forward. And that competition aspect, some people do take it seriously, and that drives them more than others. Some people, the social aspect of just having something to say, and some people just need to be reminded because they have a lot of stuff going on. So to come and have 1 hour a day or 1 hour a week, that is, to say, this is what I did, and hold yourself accountable, right? I'm not, nobody's knocking on your door and telling you to show up for the meetings. Join the WhatsApp group if you're interested. Join the Luma group. They'll email you 30 minutes and 5 minutes before the meeting. But yeah, so I hope we can cut this up to make like an actual good good thing about Aquadac, or what it actually is. So yeah, we have that ranking process, and we keep track of that over the 12-week period. And then at the end of that, we have a winner. This time, Rosemary was the winner, just barely over Dan. Congratulations. Raise the stars.
Thank you. I feel very great to be the winner. And
Good.
it was good.
I
Yeah.
sent you some purple as a bonus. Thank you.
Thank you. And NFT, or that there's prizes
No.
NFTs.
Oh, there is. Did you look at the NFT closely?
I think you showed it during the meeting.
There's a secret on the NFT as well.
Oh wow, I have not looked at it yet. I'm
If you don't
very.
find it, I'll reveal it at the next.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, I think your answer is really detailed, and that's what I like. And I've kind of made notes about what it is. I think you're providing more than people who have hoped to get. And this is also happening during the meeting itself, during the project. So
Yeah,
it's more than enough.
Let me finish this thought, and I mostly meant because I just kind of go off on these tangents and take a lot of time, so some people just want like this information. So after that ranking process, then we have really we haven't been doing it because kind of it's nice to have like just an hour, having more than an hour and 20 minutes. They say like it's hard for you to focus on one thing.
Yes.
So I try to end the meetings around there, but I say an hour because then it ends up taking 20 minutes. So yeah, we can talk about whatever at the end. Sometimes we do have a topic. We have a format for that in a Notion document, which we can link in the description, I hope. And
Yes.
At the end, there's an official optional after party. But that's hosted by a member in a separate room. So if you want to host an after party, you have to be somewhere else because I'm usually working on Tuesdays. So I try not to, as much as I love after parties, and I used to hang out at a lot of Fractally and stuff after parties with Patrick. I've been more disciplined, and also I'm working with Hombre Solar as well. So we keep it business, show up, tell everybody how awesome you are and how good you did in the past week, motivate yourself, listen to others, and follow others, which is the awesome part. Like, it's really awesome to see other people grow. I mean, I'm talking about a lot of things from the organizational sense or the systematic sense, but really just like, we're creatures that love stories, and watching people's stories going towards their own goals. It's pretty cool, and it's like life sends us off in these really interesting directions, so it's fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being part of the journey of someone is it's magical itself, because there's so many people on earth, and like, what are the chances of meeting really cool people? But here we are, and
there's really cool people everywhere.
There's really cool people, right?
And this is how we discover them, things like this, because like you have that magnet that gravitates people. And yeah, and there's also barriers to hop, like not everybody can show up for a Zoom meeting every week, and I understand that. So it's not a format for everyone, but anyway.
But it really works, and I think the more people that see the benefit of that, the more we can help each other really grow, because everyone needs that push or someone to listen to them. Even many people don't have someone that they can share with, and just having that online would be like a major shift in people's minds, and it will be as well a place to meet up. And there's so many things that could spark from there, like collaborations and so many other projects too. And you never know who you're going to inspire to, and you're probably inspiring many people. And I think that's what life is about, spreading out positive energy. And thank you for starting the project and sharing more about that. And I really liked many of your comments here, and you touched a bit about the Fractally Process and that system. And I know you have joined the Genesis Fractal with Dan Larimer. And I wanted to understand, I guess, your opinion on what did you learn from that and kind of what the force was there.
Or
And I guess we'll start with those two questions.
yeah, I mean, I think I wasn't gonna go with this first, but like number one is that we're not all technical in the same way, right?
No.
And even if there's two technical people, you're not gonna have a necessary agreement, right? So that's one part. But there was a lot of technical people there, and that's why I bring that up, because I think that's a really unique dynamic of Fractally. Anyway, so what was the question again?
What did you learn from that experience, and I guess what was the driving force there too?
Okay, yeah. So I think the biggest thing is like the captain steering the ship, right? As well as like having a map to where that is and being really clear about that, right? So it goes down to like the foundation, the fundamental documents. And I think that the better that you have to do two things. You have to set expectations and you have to meet expectations, right? I think that from a technical standpoint, in my mind, EOS and the technical team, everybody there has went above my expectations. And you know, I wasn't there in the super beginning. I was on Steemit, then Hive until 2020, when I sort of got involved with that whole community and Eden and things like that. But yeah, like we have the technical side, but the social side as well of Fractally itself was working great. But the problem is that these fruits were being developed, right? But these fruits weren't being properly picked and put into the basket of the organization, you know? And so I learned that it's actually really freaking difficult, because people like me think they know everything and think they know the best way, and you start having different captains, right? So
Yes.
yeah, when I said about like the captain steering the ship, like
Yes.
because you don't go in an organizational direction. And I think Dan understood that, but he then there was the social structure, which was a really good thing, but there wasn't the second basket, so to speak, collecting those apples that we were all making,
Oh.
you know? And I felt like we weren't, I don't, we were misdirected about the map, our organizational map being to create this white paper, right? Because my interpretation of that was quite literal, as in, okay, we're working to build this, show up and you know, tell how you work towards that objective, right? But
Yes.
that was not, those fruits were not being collected, so to speak, right? It ended up being a small organization that was working on the code, and we were, I don't want to say we were guinea pigs, but we were very useful, but that utility was not being utilized.
So you think there's probably a missed opportunity there with the talent you had, and what's the sort of utility you could have delivered or not delivered? You were ready to deliver, but the
I wouldn't
basket
say
wasn't
I wouldn't
filling up.
say a missed opportunity. You know, I don't believe in waste, right? I think that the social benefits still worked. We're here, you know, we're sharing each other's gifts and adding value to each other's lives,
Yes.
right? So the Fractally kept the people, Eden, okay, so Eden we were super into it. I was member number 100, we were all into it. But the thing is, it only happened in every months, 3 to 6 months, depending on when you were. So we were like sitting around like, okay, what, so we were really happy for Fractally, and more happy with, Fractally Eden and things like that. So that group of people, that community is still growing. And, as a tech developer, I'm always excited. I'm always like, yeah, this is the best stuff. The rest of the world just hasn't realized it yet. I see the potential of Wax. I'm biased. I have a DApp on Wax, but I see the potential of Wax as the most used blockchain. I see this as the most efficient technology. Like, the atomic assets table is 10 megabytes. Like, that's efficient. They're efficient, very efficient NFTs. And then granted, that's not where the RAM is stored. But anyway, there's millions of NFTs and they're flying around and like, so anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but I see great potential. I see the Fractally worked, the social aspect worked, but the final thing about what didn't is just that alignment. And because of almost like this alignment of the Fractally team and the alignment of the community trying to figure out how to be useful, and then being useful, wasn't it number one, it wasn't symbolically recognized, which is very important from a human dynamic. We like awards and we like to receive things, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's
Sure.
nice. You have something
Yes.
to look back, and you're gonna scroll your wallet and you're gonna see that and you're gonna have that fond memory, right? So I think that the team could have been more apt to try to be official in user testing, be official in like, this is what we're trying out. And that's something that Eden Fractal does really well. And they're active with the agendas, people are doing it, people are active, and it's working. So that was one thing that was lacking, is yeah, that misalignment. And honestly, like, I could honestly say, like, without if this value was somehow collected, it was somehow collected, and the people felt like their value, they felt like they were making a meaningful contribution towards something that they thought could change the world, we would still be happily working there, and we would probably have a whole basket of tech fruit or things like that. But anyway, so the lesson I learned is it's a complicated problem to solve. And I have a lot of respect for Dan. I have a lot of respect for all the Fractally team. I wish that there was better communication and there was better, expectations and filled expectations. Granted, things change, right? And so communication is super important there. Things have changed at Aquadac. We're still figuring out what we're about. But I try my best to be open about that and to communicate, like, at least what we are doing, and move it a way that everywhere is comfortable, because right now we are delicate, so
Yes.
we got to keep the baby growing, make sure he's fed and happy and things like that. So anyway, I learned a lot from Fractally, learned a lot from Eden, and I'm still there, I'm still, well, not at Fractally, but at Eden Fractal, and with the Fractally idea and software and things like that.
That's great, and how important that is to make a friendly experience for a wider audience and contributors as well. And as you said, I really like that symbolic efficiency, or the symbolic effect, or the symbolic dust of appreciation. And sorry, do you want to say something?
Oh yeah, well, I just got excited because I forgot to mention with the symbolic thing, like, NFTs are useful, like, you can do things with them, like, so it's even more than symbolic. So.
Yes, and yeah, even more than symbolic. There's just so many ways to reward people, really. And being creative is one way to think about it, for sure. And what could mean actually a lot for people, and keep that in their memories and their wallets, or put that on a shelf. as time
As a
changing
collector's item, you know?
yes. And I wanted to ask then that you mentioned communication is one of the key aspects of how a community should be led. I wanted to understand how important that is, you think, communication, and how can communication support efficiency?
Mm.
And
Wow. How can communication? So number one, if we're moving towards something, communication lets us know the energy, the most efficient route. So the most efficient route to get to a goal. That's why bats have sonar, you know, so communication is, I believe, how we do that. So how do we get better at communication? Right.
Yes.
And that gets down into compression of information.
Yes.
And we have things like hashes, like this can get real techie.
It's okay.
But think about a hash. So
Yes.
a hash, 256 bits, let's say. 8 times 256, that's how many ones and zeros there are. That could be a geometry, right? If we visualize that geometry could be a compression. Now, imagine what is the smallest of these shapes? What is the shortest word that you can use to get across that meaning, right? So it gets down to like a fundamental question of the universe that you are probably not expecting, but but really, I believe that the compression of information is the same thing as evolution, and the decompression of information is how we like connect with the higher level, the higher consciousness, you know, or that's an analogy I use to understand it as a programmer. So I want to take this deep because I think that there is this amazing opportunity to do exactly what I'm talking about. We have blockchain, specifically with these technologies that we're talking about. We have transactions, we have memos, we have NFTs with fields that can be changed, right? So just that's a few different things, as well as tables. Number one is the movement of information, right? The movement of information on chain has information, and that is the memo. So you can extend functionality with that memo. You can not only extend functionality, you can allow third parties to tap into that functionality. So we're used to traditional APIs serving information, but this is a technology I'm working on. I have not made the repo public, but it's called XMS, Extensible Metadata Standard. And that allows you to define the least amount of characters, or the most if you want, to have key value pairs within a memo, right? So if you look on Wax blockchain and you go to the guy who made Wax DAO, he uses I think it's called the pipe character, the vertical character as the sort of separator. And then he reads that in the contract and then says, okay, this is how you split apart this information.
Yes.
Right. So what if everybody used that? Then we could look at a contract and we could start to decipher what is the key and the value and sort of sort. And when I say contract, I mean like it could be any list of transactions. It could be on a user's account, and we could quickly sort through that. You know, you can, what?
We can filter.
Yeah, you can filter through that and then do an action, right? So imagine you could whitelist people based on reading their memos. Now, how is that exciting? Well, you know, there's a lot of more ways to read a memo. It's more accessible, but the number one thing is a person can type it into their transaction when they send it, right? It's not written in the code. And a third party can add extensibility at any time. So if you had a Blux token and you sent it to the contract, and you know, the first time I built it, you just write the ID of the name, or the ID of the song ID, and then the contract knows, okay, this is the song that you're voting on. But I could also tell them to update the metadata, right? I could send a transaction using this short syntax and say, okay, update all this metadata. Now, that's not going to do anything on the actual contract because my database is a Web 2 database, but I'm listening and reading the blockchain. And if my computer goes down, I could just read it at any time. And I'm seeing this person requested to create that chain through my UI.
Hmm.
Now, why is this exciting again? It's exciting because it's like an API. And one thing as a developer from Web 2 going to Web 3 is like you look at everything like you could do it way faster, like 18 different ways, right? You could do it way cheaper, 18 different ways. But where it becomes exciting is not only the financial aspect of having like a permissioned API, but the collaborative asset of anybody can build an API off of what your information is, or what anybody can build an API with a memo, right? Or sort of extend your token in a certain way and build a front end that matches yours. Again, you could do this with a traditional API usually, but you could make it, with money, with tokens involved, with this sort of thing. So yeah, I wanted to get that out. So thank you.
Man, that is big. That's big.
It's super big and I'm so excited about it. Like oh man, but I haven't done it yet. So I haven't published it yet. I just kind of came up with the idea.
Just now?
No. I started to write about it about 4 months ago. And I haven't really done it. I started at the beginning, and then about a week ago, I jumped back in and I decided exactly what I need. And it's pretty simple. It's different parsers, right? So I'll write different parsers for like JavaScript and C++ that can work in the contract as well as like on the front end, where you can basically use a JSON object to get the syntax to send a memo, or you can get the memo from on-chain to transfer into a JSON object that your code can then run.
That's so interesting. And have you been thinking about this daily?
No.
Or no?
This particular thing, no. But weekly for sure. I have a lot of different things, a lot of different tech. So I've been sort of like, we're going off the rails here, but I've been building a tech stack for CXC as well as Tetra. I built out CXC, and then I'm doing the same thing. I'm like scraping back the tech side of what's working, as well as like just when you're writing contracts, you learn like, oh, I could have done it like this, and it becomes easier. So yeah, I've been building a tech stack, and that's a big part of that tech stack. So I am excited about it. I am thinking about it, but I'm more thinking in the broader sense. We released the geotemporal NFT standard. That's another part of the stack. That actually needs to be improved as well. It needs to be extended, and we have a Mello grant to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things. Communication, to actually answer your question, I think it's super important. I think it's something I want to improve on. It's something I want to ask for help on, because I can't do it forever. And I want to also communicate the message to the world. And I haven't told Ombre yet, but we're going to chop up the video tomorrow hopefully I can get the video from today and send it to my Udemy, as well as the couple thousand people on the Aquarius Academy, different lists, the website, as well as Udemy. So hopefully we'll get a dozen people in here, maybe. That would be cool.
What would that video be about?
What I'm thinking is to make like a short reel about like, I'm going to cut together what, like you saying 5 to 10 to 20 seconds about the best things about Aquadac or your journey, and then, yeah.
That's great. Yes.
So just kind of cut together everybody's video, and then I put together a welcome pack on Gumroad. It's free, and then it asks for your Wax account. Hint on other parts of the tech stack. So it asks for your Wax account, and then once we have that, something could happen. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It could involve people getting NFTs, but we're probably not going to just send an NFT to anybody who signs up on the list. That would be a bot, spam factory.
That's so many
Communication.
things you're working on. You're a busy man. For how long have you been a developer? And also, let's say you have an idea and you want to build something. How do you even find a way to build it? Where do you look for the codes or the methods? Because I'm not a builder and it just seems so complicated. And so such an individual work as well. And of course you have resources, like I think GitHub is a good resource where you can see how other people have built things, and now like you can fork things, and or where you can find information if you're not sure what to do next.
Yeah. I think that having too many choices makes them harder. And one of the biggest things facing web developers today is the multiplicity of options. It's very easy to build a bloated repo, and you can add to your confusion by trying out different tech stacks and trying to merge them, and it becomes more difficult. For me, I'm lucky enough that I started before all that happened. I started around the same time GitHub was founded. And I didn't know about GitHub. I joined GitHub in 2011, and I had already been a developer for a few years before that. So when I get an idea, I draw 2 lines on a piece of paper. I draw 1 line that's vertical, and then I draw 1 line like that. And what that's going to end up being is a user interface element. And if I was designing a database, I would do the same 2 lines, except for they would overlap a little bit, and that would become like the table, and then I would draw those together. So what I do, well, first I do the visual part, right? So the idea is usually hit in a very visual way. So I draw those 2 lines, and that becomes the website, and then I start to draw out the UI. And the reason you don't draw the whole box is because you don't know how big the text is going to be, and then you end up drawing over yourself and erasing. So you write the text, then you do in the box. But yeah, I have notebooks full. I burnt like 20 notebooks. I took pictures first of all my stuff. I took pictures of like all this, my old like designs of CXC, because I founded this in 2014, and I was working on it for years before that, right? So I've designed and redesigned it, and done this for a long time, as well as other websites. But yeah, so visually I sketched out. If I'm designing a database, I still, as much as I try to write it down, like type it, but I have to write it. I have to draw a database first. If I'm lucky, I write it down, but even if I type it, I'm going to be somewhere writing on a piece of paper. This is a field. This is a field. But yeah, like, so I write all the fields. I'll write primary key. I'll write the foreign keys, and I'll design and normalize the database on a piece of paper, and then take it into code. And then to do that, like what I like to do for a project is I design the middle first. So I figure out like what data needs to show up, right? So most people either design the front end or they design the back end, but I figure out like, okay, what's that object look like? Because all the applications I develop, they pass a JavaScript object from the server to the front end. And I've literally been using that for more than 10 years, maybe more than that. But yeah, like I built in 2010, I built perhaps the world's first AJAJ forum. So that's asynchronous JavaScript and JSON, and it was a single page application. So on the left-hand side, you would have like the topics, and then on the right, you would click a topic, and then on the right-hand side, they would all like change, right? So this side, you have the topics, you click one, the left side shows them all. You click on the right side, that shows them all. So you don't have to load any pages. Like it would be like Reddit if you didn't have to go to a different page to see the comment. So I built that in 2018, and that was actually a simple project compared to what I built before that, which was at least in architecture. I built a social network. Like I say it's similar to MySpace because like I don't know what to relate it to other than like it did look like MySpace. Like the layout of the user profile looked like MySpace. But yeah, like when I was 16, to answer your question about how I like learned the stuff to do, when I was 16, I bought a book online called Dynamic. There's something about like dynamic websites, build dynamic websites by David Powers with PHP, MySQL, HTML, right? So I bought that book and I literally read that book and I was like, okay, I know how a database works. They taught you MySQL, so I extrapolated out what I read and I so I carried around a piece of paper in high school for like, I don't know how many weeks. And this piece of paper, I had my database designed on it. And I like took it to my teacher who taught computer programming. And I was like, this is my database design. I'm trying to get it into third normal form. Can you help me out? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he's like, you go see Mr. Hostetler. So I went to Mr. Hostetler and I'm like, yeah, this is my database. He's like, okay, this is nice. Like he didn't really he wasn't really sure what I was talking about either. So like then I sort of realized, oh, well, maybe not everybody can do this, but like still, like as a technical person, you always think, oh, anybody can sort of do this type of thing. And I really believe that. And I believe that the reason why I was able to do it is because I had that sort of isolation of being in my room and wanting to learn and wanting to read. And thank God my parents bought me a computer. Thank you, Dad. So I had that and I could learn. And from that, because there was three parts, I had three parts in my head that I wanted to say about where I learned. The second part is documentation. Like I would love to read documentation. And I hope this helps somebody. What I would do is I first figure out what I can do, right? And to do that, I would skim the documentation, right? It's hard to read the whole documentation. And if you try to, like, you want to do something that you can get done in one sitting, right? So you want to get really excited and you want to really, learn what you can do with this type of thing. And then, go do it. So I read the documentation and I figure out, oh, I have this power, this power, this power, this spell, this spell, this spell. So what's the series of enchantments I can cast to make something cool, right? And, so once you know what your tech stack is, you usually figure out something new and exciting that you want to base your technology around. For me, that was Leaflet.js on CXC, like this great mapping software, right? Then you figure out exactly what you can do with it. So I figured out I could extend the dot object to have a genre and this different information that's on that object. So then, now that I know that I can do that, it becomes much easier to build. So I don't start at the planning phase. I start at, figuring out what you can do. And then from there, deciding what to do. Finally, what I do now is I go on GitHub and I look for people who are doing similar things. And I try to figure out what they're doing. I still read the documentation, but it's not like the first thing I do anymore. Like I like to explore and see what code people are actually deploying and then think about what are people not deploying, like for example, the Fractally system is a logarithmic. I don't know. It's based on algebra, this graph or whatever. All of the systems I design, knock on wood, are integer based. So we use integer based mathematics. Blux does not have, it's indivisible. You can't divide a Blux. So the creation system is completely based on integer, which I think is a lot simpler and it makes it easier to make it fair. So yeah, that's where my ideas come from. Or they first started with books, and then I started to what was the second thing I said? The third one was
documentation.
yeah, the second one was to just go hard on documentation and then I explain my formula, figure out what you can do, get excited, decide what technology you want to build on, figure out what you can do. Don't worry about learning it. Don't worry about memorizing or even learning too much about what the functions do. Just look what all the functions are, look what arguments they take, and if it's something interesting, read about it so you know what you can do, and then go back and actually decide what you're going to do. Yeah. And now I just steal people's code on GitHub. No, I'm
Well,
just kidding. I wish that were the case. I wish it were that easy. You know, like C++ is it's so difficult. I actually wrote our contracts from scratch before ChatGPT, and not the ones that we have now, but the ones that we're going on. The ones that we have now are just like the basic contracts. We're using simple assets. I did write the metadata standards for those, but like our tokens or anything for CXC at least, they're just regular tokens, and all the other functionalities is on other contracts or NFTs.
Great. Well, that seems like such a learning curve. I didn't know that you've developed for so long.
Yeah, so I was
You're
16.
an OG.
I'm an OG.
Yeah, OG. Well, that's great. And
yeah, and
yes, I think this is going towards the end of the interview now. Thanks so much for your time too. So far, it's been great. And I feel like kind of forgot that I'm on Earth.
Be careful, I'm a hypnotist. You listen to my rap music, you know.
Yes, and I'll link that in the description. But if you want, you can share how people can find your rap too.
I am Gudasol. It's the letters of Douglas mixed around. So I'm using Gudasol now. This is part of my Aquadac rebirth goal. So is to be Gudasol, and that is primarily was a music personality, but also is absorbing all of my other personalities. Oh,
Yes, very mystic. Okay,
yes.
I would link your Spotify, YouTube, and all other links that I can find, so people can check you out. You're amazing, and even the videos, everything is great, and it's really inspiring. And yes, I love to listen to your music. So I can't wait to hear your latest video that you sent me, and I'll make sure I share it as well. And
awesome. And I want to hear what the music you're making with Dan as well. And I look forward to sharing our Me and Ombre Solar's music, which we haven't released yet, with you as well.
Yes. Have a great. And lastly, I wanted to ask about AI.
Okay.
It's a very trendy topic, and you mentioned before ChatGPT era, and you've were writing the smart contracts, and I wanted to ask because I remember you were actually the first person who told me about ChatGPT, and we're I think in Mexico, we were in Tulum, and then you were like, oh, this came out, and then you can sign up here, and then you can ask basically give a prompt, and ChatGPT can return whatever you asked them to. And then you shared with me like a bunch of questions that you asked, which were really funny, and I don't remember like the details of it, but yes. So since then, so that was 6 months ago or so. In 4 months ago, and today's the 20th of June. So I know that there's ChatGPT 4 now that came out, I think a month ago or so, and a bunch of other AI tools, like ones which are, I think, there's a one that is Firefly, which is the AI tool for creating pictures, images. Yes. And I wanted to understand, do you have a favorite AI tool?
I'm using ChatGPT 4. So I like the GPT-4 model, and I like the memory context of the window. I also like to use Replicate AI for like images and things like that. Replicate's basically like a host for these different image models or these different sort of language models. They actually they spin it up, or I don't know, like I don't know like enough to know like if they're spinning up like the whole server or like the whole like environment or just some like part. I mean, obviously they're not like training the model in one call, but they're able to get it up and running and then run a specific call and then just charge you for like this time. So it is like a API, you have to pay for it, but it's a very good pricing, and they have like different things for transcribing audio, which I actually haven't done, and like making videos and looping GIFs and things like that. So yeah, Replicate AI is probably the best tool I recommend to get in there for a regular consumer. But yeah, like for as far as like what I do on a day-to-day basis for prompting is like I usually use ChatGPT 4. I use web browsing sparingly when I need it. And I try to I like to use it to ask PDFs as well. That's one of my favorite plugins. I haven't explored all the plugins, but yeah, like there's other options. Like I've ran little language models on my computer as well, but like it's not getting anything useful yet. So I'm a ChatGPT user, premium user.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. And last question now, is this the last question, is where do you think AI is gonna go?
Can you be more specific?
Let's say, do you think it will be paid? Do you think it will be still a free service, for example, or do you think
I think there'll always be free services. I think that you know, so the cost from AI and the reason why people are buying all these GPUs is primarily to train them. So once you have this sort of neural network, it can take a long time to wiggle around the neurons to grow a baby or to culture a universe that has exactly what you need. And that's very expensive, and it's getting cheaper all the time. But to actually run the models is not as expensive. Like I can run GPT-2 on my Mac, and it's been out for years, or not my Mac, but the GPT-2. So there's so many options that I think it's only going to get cheaper. It's only going to get more available. You know, like I said, you can run it on your own thing. I've thought of a lot of ideas. I could ramble ideas about AI and code all day. But yeah, as far as like cost and price and what it's going to look like, it's going to get cheaper. It's cheap already. It's just like the big question that's crazy to me. If I had to choose like what topic to answer that on, it would be like creatively. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I think creatively there's a big space. So then it becomes, now we have like different, you know, there becomes this other need for social interaction, right? Or this other need for providing our value to each other, right? So where can we provide our value in new ways? And I think like to be more human, to be more kind of bold and crazy and wild, it is becoming more valuable to be almost to that extreme, as well as the second thing is the connection with nature or with the universe, because what we're seeing with AI is human knowledge, right? We're not seeing machine knowledge, we're seeing human knowledge, and we're just deciding how we want to see that. But we as humans, we have access to that universal knowledge, right?
Yes.
That's more valuable. Yeah. And to each other, we have value to each other. So how can we provide value to each other in new ways? So this will be on season 17 of Aquadac.
Yes, more to come.
Hey,
Nice.
let's have a reality show. Take this and send it to MTV. Let's get some producers here.
Okay, I'll make sure I promote it, and yeah, call my contacts. Pixie as well.
Pixie says he knows lots of unicorns, so we should get a deal.
Yes.
Just Pixie Dust and Dreams.
Man, that's great. And I think with that, I'm gonna greatly thank you for the interview and for your time. And I wish you all the best with your projects. I'll make sure I link everything down below in the description box. And thank you everyone for watching.
I wanted to see my hands.
Yes.
Thank you thank you so much for hosting this, and for giving me space to talk, because I like to talk. And sometimes I feel like I am doing a lot of work, and I want to make sure that my apples get into a basket. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
Yes.
want to make sure that these sort of technologies, if a meteor strikes me tomorrow, then they get out there. So I want to perk people's interest. I want them to go to my github.com/Doug Butner and read my repos and things like that. So yeah, I'm excited about this tech. I want to build cool things with cool people, and with Aquadac, I want to keep growing with cool people. So you're cool people. Thanks for showing up. If you're watching this, you're probably cool people too. I know I look super weird. I'm trying to hold, I'm here on candlelight on a Zoom call. But thank you so much. And Pixie says bye. Typical.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.